and there's no do-over. So there's like this pressure scenario. And as the planner, what I don't hear talked about as much is what toll does that pressure take on the minds and hearts of the people doing this work? Like, what do you see? What toll do you see that stress exacting on people? Hey, everybody, this is Eddie Babbage, founder, CEO of Timeline Genius, your host here of the Wedding Industry Insider Podcast, back with another great guest. Charessa Sawyer is here with me. She is the publisher of Event Therapy Magazine. She's the owner of SC Visionary Planning and Production Services, which is a leading cause-driven event production and planning firm in Atlanta. She's a licensed therapist. She has 15 years of event industry experience under her belt. Charessa, thank you very much for taking time to be here and to do this interview with me.
Oh my, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So I used the word unicorn in the pre-interview when it came to me, like, okay, I see exactly what we need to talk about. And I say unicorn
Yeah.
because you're the only licensed therapist and, event planner that I know with 15 years of experience in this industry. Like, combining those two fields of expertise, I do think makes you very unique,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
gives you a
thank
platform to do some very unique work for people in our industry. Um,
you.
we are obviously going to be talking about mental health and the importance of that, and giving people in this very stressful industry some tips on that. And also just to kind of
Mhm.
give folks a preview of where this interview is going and why they should definitely dig in. We're going to be tapping into, really both sides of your expertise, not just the mental health, but
Right.
I also want to get your expertise as an event professional. But before we do all of that, can you just give people a little bit more of a sense of your background, Charessa, how you got to be where you currently are in our industry?
Yes, yes. Again, so thank you again, Eddie, for having me. So my background was first in the mental health industry in itself as a social worker, doing therapy, and then I got into doing more of one-on-one services for those who are dealing with various mental health diagnoses. But as an event professional, I mean, I've been doing this for a while. I began to see just so many things that were similar for those who are in the event industry as well as some of my clients, right? And so I found myself not just producing events, but also providing services, right, for my clients or for my team members and even for myself. And so that's kind of how, it all began in regards to event therapy and really kind of zoning in into mental health being something that we need to be addressing in our wedding industry and our events industry.
So that's so interesting. Like, how did you go? Like, and you already spoke to this a little. I'm just digging in a little deeper. I
Okay.
didn't mention that you studied, and we had a little laugh about it, that you studied at University of North Carolina. Me being the Duke boy that I
At
am,
Chapel
I'm just
Hill,
going to let
at
that slide.
Chapel Hill,
That's right. At Chapel Hill.
at
That's
Chapel
right.
Hill.
Um, that's right, at Chapel Hill. But how did you take me a little further down the rabbit hole, Teresa, of how you went
Yeah.
from, studying mental health to
Mhm.
getting into the event industry and producing events?
So let me just say this: it wasn't like I went from one to the other because I've been doing events forever. It seems,
Mhm.
even in high school, like
Gotcha.
I'm from a very small place in North Carolina, rural, and as a class president, your job is to plan events for your class, right? So that's what I started
Hmm.
doing, and
Hmm.
as I began, as a in my sorority, the same thing. I just have always been doing events. I was the event coordinator, right, within my sorority, and so I've always done it. And so
Gotcha.
it's just in me to produce events and make people feel good. At the end of the day, for me, events is a way for us to to make people smile, right? To help people find the joy
Yeah.
that they may have been seeking. And really that's the same in mental health. As I studied mental health, it's like, okay, people are going through various things. So what is our job? We're helping them to find the root of the issue so that they can find their joy again. events is us finding joy. And so for me, it just kind of fit perfectly together. So it wasn't so much of one before the other. It's like it feels like I've been doing events for such a long time, and also
Gotcha.
studying mental health as well.
So I get the origin of the event planning, which is that's just who
Hmm.
you are, right?
That's who
Like
I
that's
am.
just part of like once you were old enough to kind of understand the idea of putting events together long before you maybe
Yeah.
even had the official label as that,
Right.
professionally, like that was something that was just kind of in your nature and heart and mind to do.
Right.
Where did the interest in mental health spring from?
The interest in mental health sprang from, first of all, I've always been like I think a person who cared for other folks and what they were going through. And I think the interest really came when I was in college, undergrad it is, and I began, we all need a little job here and there, right? And so I began to work
Right.
with the Asperger's community, and so the Autism Society of North Carolina, and working in developmental disabilities and things of that nature. And so I had a young guy that I was working with. I still remember him to this day, and that the things, the activities that we were doing that made him light up kind of sparked my interest to do more within the mental health and to also learn about autism. Where is it coming from? How can parents receive the right resources? What is out there in our community to support people who are in need of that additional support? And so for me, what sparked it was me working with the North Carolina Autism Society and working with this, I would love to say his name. I'm missing so much, but working with him and then kind of going from there. So that's kind of what sparked it, the mental health piece.
I got you. So you've got this growing interest in mental health. You start developing expertise. You're studying it. You're learning about it, and in parallel track, you're an event planner, right? You're doing it
Yeah.
even before professionally. You're doing it in school with your
Mm-hmm.
sorority. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when do you actually turn your attention? Like, what prompted you or led to you turning your attention to the idea of providing mental health services for people in the event industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. So this was pre-pandemic. So I had a client who we were producing retreats for, and she talked to me about dealing with anxiety. And what was happening was she was putting her stuff, her baggage, as I say, on us, right? And so I really had to sit her down and kind of process what was happening, because what was happening to her had nothing really to do with the event, but it became an event issue, right? And so when people outside things become an event issue, then you can see the events begin to crumble, if you will, right? And so for me, and that was the first opportunity for me to really kind of sit back and see what was happening to me because of this situation, what was happening to my team members, but also what our clients are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and with the resources that they need. So not telling anyone to do this, but because of my background in therapy, I would then send her resources, right? Hey, here's the activity that you can try to help reduce some of the anxiety that you feel about X, Y, and Z. And that was helping her. And so that helped us to produce this wonderful event. And she was so excited and happy that she then booked us several
Wow.
times after that. So that kind of helped me understand what was needed. And my team members, I would say too, Eddie, they you could see a weight being lifted off of them. When the weight was lifted off of her, the weight was also lifted off of them and myself, right? And so that kind of helped me say, there's something here for our team members, for my industry, and also for those that we are serving.
It's funny, Charessa. I feel like in my, lifetime, it's like we've seen like so much change in the
Yeah.
perception and like stigma that goes along with like the idea of having a therapist and
Yes.
mental health. When I was a kid, it was almost more of a taboo kind of
It's
thing.
a
Whereas
taboo.
now, there are a lot of just extraordinary people that will just say like, everybody should have a therapist. Like I know multiple just brilliant, successful, happy, well-adjusted people who have that as like a mantra, just like everybody should
Period.
have a therapist. But still, there is like a little bit of a stigma. And I think some of the people listening, might be thinking, okay, like I can kind of tune out here because I don't need a therapist. Can you
Mm,
speak a little bit to that sort of idea or mindset that still exists around like
yeah.
therapy is for people that are like, I can't get out of bed in the morning and I can't really function? Just speak a little bit to how, and from your vantage point, this is something that, like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe that everybody needs or something in our industry. What are your sort of thoughts on that?
No, that's fine. I'm one of those ones that believe that every a therapist needs a therapist. A everyone needs a
Mm-hmm.
therapist, right? Or at the very least, everyone needs someone that's in their trusted circle, a natural support that they can lean on, right? That can
Yeah.
be that they can talk with, that they can be supported by, and that maybe even they can support. Sometimes we need someone that we can talk to without being talked at, right? And so one of the jobs of a
Right.
therapist is to be able to listen, to openly listen to what is happening, what is going on, and to help you dig deeper into the root of the concern or the root of the issue. And so that I believe is very important for all of us. And so we do still hear that. To your point, since the pandemic, Eddie, people have been talking more about mental health, which is great, right? It's been more of a
Yeah.
conversation that we're having,
Definitely.
that we're not afraid to
Yeah.
have as much, right? But I believe that
Mm-hmm.
that stigma is still there. And in our industry in itself, I hear, oh, I don't want to talk about having a therapist because if someone hears that I have a therapist, they may think that I'm not put
Right.
together, right? They
Right.
may think that I don't
Right.
have it together, and that then I won't
Right.
get my bag, right? I won't get my bag. And so what I say to that is that,
Mm.
it's always mind over matter for me, right? So how are you feeling? If you book all of these clients and you're not mentally prepared or ready to do it, how successful are you fully? The event might be successful, but how successful are you? Having a therapist or having a support group, if you will, that is more therapeutic will help you to better prepare for some of those situations that we run into that may trigger other concerns that are deep rooted in within us. So I'm always encouraging people to seek a therapist, seek someone that you can speak to, that you can talk to, and that you can feel comfortable with sharing all of the things that you may be dealing with, and helping you to find the root of those concerns as well.
What do you think are the main benefits? And I know it varies from one person to the
Hmm.
next because everybody has a different life and different challenges and is trying
Right.
to build a different business, etc. But if you could speak in sort of general terms, what are some of the benefits of having a therapist for an event planner?
To get it off your chest, honey. Like, listen, as an event professional,
Yeah.
there's a lot of um, uh, people pleasing going on. There's a lot of, hey,
Hmm.
timelines and schedules and all the things that are going on that leads us to stress, high in stress, panic attacks. A lot of times, people don't even know they're having a panic attack. So having a therapist would tell you, hey, what you're experiencing right now is a panic attack. And let me help you figure out what are the triggers of this panic attack, right? Because a panic attack may be something, hey, I felt this, but it went away. Well, the next time it may not go away.
Right.
It may then impact you physically. So you want to make sure that you have a
Yeah.
therapist. So one of a benefit of a therapist is to be able to help you to understand your feelings, your thoughts, and then help you to come and your triggers to those things, right? And
Yeah.
then help you to
Yeah.
develop strategies or mechanisms that can support you when hey, something is changing in me right now. Let me go ahead and get in front of it. Something is changing. I'm recognizing these things.
So there's something you and I talked about this very, very briefly in the pre-interview, and it's very commonly mentioned that
Mm-hmm.
wedding planning, event planning, that it's a known stressful job, right? Like, and
It is.
as we've talked about, it's like right up there with like military and all this stuff. Is like, wow. And I
Right.
think people understand that a large part of that is because it's pressure. These are huge life
It's
events,
pressure.
and or events for like some company, but and there's no do-over. So there's like this pressure scenario, and as the planner, you and I also know that you're kind of the one where the buck stops. Like everything, you're responsible at a high level for everything. So there's this pressure. What I don't hear talked about as much, and I think that you would be uniquely suited to speak to, is what toll does that pressure take on the minds and hearts of the people doing this work? Like, what do you see? What toll do you see that stress exacting on people?
Mm-hmm. A loss of excitement, not wanting to be in the industry anymore. Forgetting
Mm,
about what led
hello.
them to the industry in the first place. And that's really with any type
Yeah.
of job. If you are on a job, even if it's a 9 to 5 and you are super excited, oh, this is gonna be good, I'm making this amount of money or whatever, and then
Yeah.
you get to the job and it's super duper stressful, then you no longer want to be there because it's not benefiting you internally, right? And so that's what I'm seeing a lot of. And that's also when we talk about, hey,
Yeah.
we need to utilize these empowered boundaries, right? We need to empower ourselves through boundaries, through these healthy boundaries, because oftentimes in this industry, it is fast paced, it is high pressured, it can be difficult to maintain your boundaries. It can be difficult to do that. So that comes with us being very, for lack of a better way of saying this, being into ourselves a little bit more than we have been.
Teresa, you just hit a button with that right there for me. Because what I do day in, day out, week in, week out, I'm talking to wedding planners all over the
Mhm.
world, all over the country. I mean, obviously my team as well, but like wedding planners, like kind of without ever being one myself, I feel like a part of my mind, heart, and psyche has tapped into the mind, heart, and psyche of a wedding
Yeah.
planner because I've been doing, Timeline Genius for 11 years, running this podcast. And when I'm asking about the benefit, what you just spoke to right there, like just hits like a button because I can tell you myself, maybe a little less so with new planners because I feel like the people that are just getting, and I don't want to be too generalized here because
Hmm.
everybody is case by case, but generally speaking, when you just get going, you're right at the front end. The enthusiasm is there. If it weren't there, you wouldn't have started your planning company. There are other considerations and fears like, am I going to get clients, blah, blah, blah. But what you just mentioned, that notion of I had a passion for this, I love this, I got into this for a reason, but then at some point, again, just direct reflection as I go back through my mental Rolodex of like conversations I've had with people that have been in the game for like X number of years, and they're
Hmm.
just like, yeah, yeah, like I
Yeah.
love it, but I just don't know if I want to keep doing this. Like
Yeah.
that is really profound what you're hitting on. So let's
Yeah.
unpack that. Like, how can people start to preemptively like avoid that scenario where they look up after X years of doing this thing? And those people that just to be clear here, Teresa, it's not like they're saying, I don't love wedding planning anymore.
Right.
They still do. They always have. Like it's kind of part of who they are and what they were meant to do in life. But for
Hmm.
whatever reason, and they'll name other things for whatever set of reasons, they're kind of like, I just don't know if I want to keep. So how can people avoid that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think from the very beginning, when you are first starting out in the industry, being realistic about the industry. That's number one. We have to be realistic that it is high pressure, it is stressful, and we also need to make sure that we have a strategy for ourselves to take care of us because we can get lost in the sauce. Right. And so once we get lost in the sauce of all of the things that has to happen, then yeah, we will end up losing that joy. So I think in the beginning is to be realistic about what the industry is, and to make sure that we have a plan of action for ourselves that can go the long way. And so what I mean by a plan of action for ourselves is, you know, what are the things that tick me off? Like, know yourself, right? What are the things that tick me off, right? How do I
Yeah.
handle things when I get upset? Who do I need around me to support me while I'm in this industry? What are the steps that I should take to maintain my physical health as well as my mental health? Because those work together, right? And so once you start recognizing or identifying all these things, that I believe that when issues happen or issues arise, like then we are able to handle those a bit better. Having these coping strategies, but I think I keep saying empowered boundaries. I think that is one of the probably Eddie, the biggest piece of it too, because it is high pressure, because it is fast paced. We lose ourselves oftentimes because we don't have boundaries that we set. And let me go deeper into that, Betty. It's not even that we don't have boundaries that we set. We set the boundaries, but we don't practice. Okay. So we don't move forward in those boundaries. The client may say, I give this example all the time when I'm on stage, is I ask people, hey, you have your office hours. You say you from 9 to 7, you're not taking any calls or whatever. But this one time, these 2 times or whatever, you begin to answer those calls for the client. Now, are you following the boundaries that you set for yourself? And so once we start following our own boundaries and we empower ourselves through those things, we empower ourselves by knowing what ticks us off, or what, how to delegate, how to negotiate with our, all the things, then I believe that we can start taking our power back and more control and maintain the joy in this industry a bit longer than what I'm seeing is happening.
As a wedding planner, you know how important it is to create detailed wedding day timelines for your events. But creating your timelines can be a tedious and time-consuming job. Until now. Because Timeline Genius lets you create beautiful, detailed wedding day timelines with ease. And it keeps everything you need on the wedding day in one central place. Here's how it works. First, Timeline Genius saves all your clients, vendors, and venues in your Rolodex, so you don't lose time looking for their information. And when you're ready to create a new timeline, you simply enter the key information for your wedding. Click a button, and voila! Timeline Genius magically gives you a customized timeline for your event, where all the details are laid out and the times are calculated for you. From there, you can easily edit your timeline by adding or deleting items, inserting images, changing font styles, and customizing everything to your liking. You can also instantly shift the times for as many items as you want. And when it comes to your clients and vendors, Timeline Genius lets you give them the highest level of service. You can send them tailored timelines, showing only the items they're involved in. And you can collaborate by inviting them to a mobile-friendly, web-based version of the timeline. You can even set text message reminders to automatically go out on the wedding day. And once you've completed your perfect timeline, you can download it or email it out as a beautifully styled PDF. And that's Timeline Genius, a smart software that will help take your wedding planning to the next level. Start your free trial today.
So I love that, Charessa. And, I want to go a little further down this path and just really be concrete with it, because I think, the reality is we can say on here, everybody should have a plan. I mean, everybody should have a therapist. But the reality is most people listening are not going to just like finish this interview and then go dial up a therapist. Some people might, and I'll bet it'll be amazing for them. But for those that don't, what are the concrete steps here that they can take? Like, is it really kind of sitting down and scheduling some time with yourself on your calendar and just saying, all right, I'm going to take, 45 minutes and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to list out the things that are my triggers, and I'm going to list out the new boundaries that I want to set. Like, let's get a little bit, let's try to make it concrete for those people that might not have a professional like you that they're talking to every week to kind of walk them sequentially through these exercises. Like, if I'm out there and I'm stressed right now, what should I actually sit down and do if I'm not going to hire a therapist?
Right, right. And so, and I think for some people, hiring a therapist, it may not be the way to go right now, right? So one of the ways to go is to do
Right.
exactly what you said, is to sit down and, not necessarily write out all of my triggers, but think about what do I need to feel? Have I done in the past that made me feel good? You know, I
Yeah.
love grounding. So grounded for me, I love grounding. So I'll go stand outside and just put my feet in the grass. That supports me. I'd have one Fausto. I know you probably know Fausto. He tells me all the time, there's I have to go and I work out every morning from this time to this time. This is my boundary. This is what I do, and this is what supports me. So for those who may not necessarily have a therapist, I would say step one would be write down what are some things that make me feel good. What makes me feel good? Okay.
Yeah.
Once you've written
Yeah.
those things down, I feel good when I do this. So that is the prompt. I feel good when I do this. Once you have written that down, the next question is, what makes me not feel good? I don't feel good when this happens, or when this happens to me. So now you have these two pieces of the
Mm-hmm.
pie. What happens is good, what happens is not so good. And so now you have these two things. And the next step will be to begin to implement the strategies that you use that are good when you don't feel good. So if that's lying on the floor, which is another strategy that I use, and just calm everything down, put my headphones on with no music and just relax. That helps me. So those are a couple of things. So groundwork, meditation that may support sitting still with nothing going on. Working out or exercising is something that you can do. Writing or journaling is something that people do. I also like to do laundry,
Yeah.
fold clothes, that is. So some repetitive actions
That's where you
also
and I
helps you.
diverge.
It's only the folding of the clothes. It's only the folding, so
Okay.
so the repetitive
You're
things,
like
if you notice,
meditation, exercise. I'm with you. I'm with you. Laundry.
not for.
Oh.
But listen, so Eddie, when you do repetitive things like folding clothes, like walking, like journaling,
Yeah.
these are things that you're doing over and over. Those
Yeah.
things really speak to your senses, right? Even finding something that smells
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a therapist and
Yeah.
you know what makes you feel good, you know what doesn't make you feel good, utilizing those strategies that feel good will help you to reduce some of the stress that you may be feeling at the time.
No doubt. Yeah, as you're talking, Charessa, it just, obviously, it's not like people are like, oh my gosh, I've never heard that like meditation or exercise, but you
Right.
just can't be reminded too many times. And you're just making me think of, in my own case, if I don't work out in the morning, sometimes I work out in the morning, oftentimes I'll work out in the morning more because I want to get that feeling for the day than because I'm trying to burn fat or get
The
more fit.
routine.
Like at a certain point, it's almost like I need that almost just to get the endorphins going, to feel like I'm at my best, that I'm bringing my best energy. And when you feel good inside, and this is such a key point, I just feel like your outer world is kind of is a reflection of your inner world.
It
It's not
is.
instantaneously adjusted, but like over time, if you spend your moments every second in like a high energy, wonderful, positive state, like the outer world's going to come in congruence with that. And
Yes.
conversely, if you're stressed because you're not practicing these things that you're talking about and you're not feeling good in here, the rest of this stuff outside is going to eventually come into alignment with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Energy is energy, right? So if I'm with
What
someone,
it,
that's why I always tell people your
it
natural
is.
supports. Be careful, who you're with, what you're paying attention, what you're listening to, what you're watching, because if that energy is negative, and that's the other thing, Eddie, I'm glad you mentioned it, is really having a routine for yourself. So in the morning time, if
Yeah.
the first thing I do is pick up my phone and read an email from my client, you never know what that email is going to be about. That may set your mood or set your day up. But if instead you lay still and listen for your heartbeat and remind yourself that I'm human and I'm alive, then that may set you up in a different way. Then go work out, then go do this. So setting up a routine for yourself that best meets you.
So I love that point, Charessa. And I think, it's interesting because where my mind goes is, we've been speaking to people about how to preempt this because, like they say, like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I believe that. But sometimes you also need a cure. Sometimes you're like, somebody may be listening to this and may say, wow, I wish I had started doing that a year and a half ago and being more mindful and meditating and journaling and exercising. But you know what, guys? Like, here's where I am today. Right now, they may be on their way to like a site visit or something with 2 weddings coming up this week and they're really stressed. Like, what do you say to the people that have already kind of hit that stage that I told you I've heard from other planners? Like, I am kind of burned out. I am already questioning whether or not I want to be here. What do those people do to kind of cure the situation once it's already gotten to that point?
Yeah. So this is going to sound kind of, people are using the word weird these days. But we have to make a decision. When we get to that place, we have to make a decision that's for us. We have to make a decision that's for us. And what I mean by that, Eddie, is that when we get to a place where we don't care anymore, whether the event goes well or not, whether, Chris Stapleton, not Chris Stapleton, Chris, that he's a caterer in the industry. He said, when you start realizing, hey, the linen is off and you just like, whatever, you're at that place where you're completely burned out. At that place, there's a time to make a decision about what are you going to do next. And so that might mean that you have to stop in your tracks. That doesn't feel good. It doesn't sound good. And it's probably one of the hardest things because you got an event that's coming up. But it's either you have an event or you have a life, right? We're at that place, right? Where we have to make a decision that it may be that, hey, I do have a team lead that has to take this one on because I have to take me on. So I think at that place, we are at a breaking point where we have to be in a position where we're taking time for ourselves. We have to stop. And that is the hardest thing. Like I said, like the word no can be the hard word and the word stop is another hard word in this industry. But that means it's a decision that we have to make. And I know that doesn't give people like, hey, I need concrete, like what are the steps to do? Because I'm at that place. My step for you is to sit back and stop for a moment and really deal with your internal being. Because at the end of the day, that wedding is going to happen whether you're there or not. Like it's going to happen, someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where we are when we get to that place.
That's really interesting. So another sort of thought that comes to mind, given that you are thinking about mental health and you yourself are an event planner, what do you see as you look around you, friends, just other colleagues, people that you see from afar in the industry? What do you think is the biggest trap that planners fall into that takes them down this unwanted path of like having the passion and joy beaten out of them? Like if you could point to one just pitfall that people stumble into, what comes to mind?
So that the clients are our friends forever. The client is my friend. So they love what I do. And so they're going to always take care of me. That has led to a lot of concerns or issues within the industry. And if I can give one more, I'm sorry, Eddie, but it's the lack of lack of delegation. So I call it task hoarding. That's what it is. That we try to take on every single thing ourselves, and we are hoarding all the tasks that comes with the plan. We take on everything. And so we're hoarding it all. So now, we're stressed because we can't really handle it all. So we're hoarding it. We should be delegating as much as we can. So I think those two things is, definitely the delegation piece for sure is what I'm seeing a lot of.
And,
not doing.
and I guess that's very intuitive, right? If there's stuff you need to be delegating and you're not, it's going to pile up on you and create more stress, right? Like that's a very obvious cause for breakdown, right?
Yes, for sure. And that's what I'm seeing. My one-on-ones, a lot of the individuals, whether in corporate or wedding, we recognize when we get deep into what's the issue or the concern is that they have 88 things on the list. And 88 things is really times two because every one task got two or three tasks on that. So, how are you really handling those things? And that's just for your business. That's just for the client events. What about your life that's happening around you too? You have children, you have a husband, you have a wife, you have, a partner, you have whatever is going on. All of these things are now on your shoulders. Now it's heavy. And so my joy for the events, is really been reduced. It's been, impacted in some way. And so, we really have to figure out how to lean on our team members or lean on our network to be able to support us along the way.
I love that. Another thought that comes to mind, Charessa, you've obviously been doing this for a long time. You've been helping other people in your work with other people. And I love that a lot of this just comes from your heart. Like the whole origin of your interest in mental health is like, how can I help other people that are having trouble? When you're helping other planners, what's one of the most impactful things just kind of across the board? Like when you kind of reflect on, okay, this person, when you've been able to really give help, what's one of the number one things that you've done that's had a positive impact on people?
Listen. That sounds so boring, right? But literally listen. I had someone that contacted me recently and said, I didn't have someone to talk to. I felt safe sharing with you. And I get that a lot because in the industry, we're afraid to tell too many people what we're going through or what we're dealing with. Afraid of judgment, afraid of whatever. And so having a safe space, a safe person that you can literally just, I call it, I give people the opportunity to do vent and processing sessions with me. So vent, get it off, talk, just say it. And then I process that situation with them. And so listening and helping to process that situation has been, I would say, the most impactful. And for me, it makes me smile to hear that, hey, I just really needed to talk and you were there for me to do it. And now I can move forward. And now I have, it helped me in this way, so, and that was 3 messages I received this week from people saying exactly that.
That really resonates with me, Charessa. This is a little bit of a tangent, but where my mind went, there's a random movie called Meet Joe Black from back in the day with Brad Pitt and Anthony Hopkins, and there's a really poignant scene in there where one of the guys is talking about his wife, and he's like, she knows everything about me, like, and she still loves me. Like, there's something to, and I feel like, I've been married now for coming up on 14 years. And at some point I kind of reached this point, my wife and I, where it's just like, you literally can tell the other person and have told the other person everything and anything that's in your mind, which, there are too many things happening to actually tell somebody everything. I mean, heck, I've had things happen in the last 2 hours that I won't have time to share with her, but just this notion that there is somebody that I can tell everything to. And again, that's not at all replacing the value of a therapist, because it's not your spouse's job to just sit there and listen to like just everything. I mean, that ties into marriage, but there's so many other things going in. The idea of having a dedicated professional to listen is still, like, I think extremely valuable. But that allowed me, just in what you were saying, to kind of feel. And it's not surprising that listening, like, what a gift to give somebody, because I'll bet people are carrying a lot of stuff right now that they don't really have anybody that they can just tell everything to without worrying about it being like, oh, you're feeling like that? Well,
Exactly.
you're obviously not tight at your business, like
hmm hmm Yeah, or someone
it's
saying,
really
"Hey,
powerful.
just have faith, just do this or just do that." Oftentimes, Eddie, people don't even want you to say anything. They just need to say what they need to say. And that's what I allow.
Mm.
That's the venting. Just let me say what I need to say right now in this moment. In this moment, this client worked my nerves because of this, and then this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And I allow people to do that. I don't let you leave without processing these things, though, but we allow you to vent because we need that. We need to vent from time to time. There's a lot that goes in this industry. It's not just the clients, it's just the business, just being an entrepreneur or just being a business owner. It is a lot that's tied into it all, whether it be contract issues, whether it be accounting issues, whether it be team member issues, whatever it is. I've heard it all from those who are in the weddings and events industry. The stress of it, and they really just want to vent. And once we vent, then it's like, okay, now let's process what happened. Let's process the steps that we can take to, if we run into this again, how do we handle it? How do we handle it for ourselves internally? How do we put ourselves in a position where this type of situation is probably a chance that it may not happen again? How do we do that? So that's what we do. And so, for me, that's been the most impactful, being there for people to have a safe space to vent, to process, and to be themselves, and not necessarily be the owner of a business. I'm just me.
Man, I love that on so many levels, Teresa. I feel like that to me taps into something much more powerful and interesting and profound than no matter what success you achieve, it's just more powerful and profound than business success, which is personal growth. Like, I think that's what we're here to do, among a few other things. One of the most powerful things, you can look at self-realization or whatever, but like, and one of the beauties of being an entrepreneur, like having your own business, like you have to grow in ways like it will test you. But like what you're talking about, it'd be easy to just go through these stresses and day after day trying to grow your business without dealing with and processing all of these things that are coming up that can lead to personal growth. But if you've got somebody to talk to, man, is that going to ratchet up like the growth curve? But my question though is, as soon as I ask that, Tress, is like, is there anything that people who don't have a therapist can do to tap into that benefit? Or do they really just need to break down and get a therapist? Because I'll bet a lot of people listen and be like, wait, that sounds pretty hot. Like if I had somebody that I could just talk to on a semi-regular basis to just be heard without fear of judgment, can people get that without a therapist?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, to a certain extent. A therapist is going to probably go a little bit deeper. But what I say is that, I mean, that's why I created the network in itself. So that, we have people that we can talk to, not necessarily just a therapist. It may be my colleague. I may be speaking with, Terica, like, Terica, this is what I'm feeling right now. And, I have a trusted
yeah,
person, not necessarily a therapist, but I have a
yeah,
trusted person that I can lean on. And so, having those
yeah, yeah,
natural, and not your wife, not your husband, not your partner, someone that's in the industry or that's an
yeah,
entrepreneur that you
yeah,
can say, hey,
yeah,
you know, you're my safe space right now. Do you have the capacity to speak with me today? So I always ask that question. Do you have the capacity? Because they're going through things too. Do you have the capacity to speak with me today?
right,
Okay. This is what I'm feeling like,
right.
Terica. This is what I'm feeling like, Fausto. I just need to share this with you. Can you help me today talk through these things? So they're not a therapist, but they're people that I trust. They are a safe space for me. They are an ear that I can process, and I can talk about, what I'm dealing with, or ask questions as well. And so that's why the network in itself was created, so that we could, have people like that we can lean on from time to time. And it's a mutual support type of thing. Not just, hey, let me call a therapist, but let me call my friend here, my support here, because I need that in this moment.
Well, this is a great place, I think, Charessa, for you to tell people a little bit more about the event therapy membership and your magazine as well. Can you just, I know we've touched on those a little bit throughout the interview, but can you just tell people a little bit more about both of those resources so they know more about them?
Yeah. So to get into the network in itself and its membership is exactly that. So it allows us to have people that we can connect with. We have resources that are available. So if you are dealing with anxiety, hey, we have resources for you that you can tap into. We have events, we have workshops, we have webinars and things that can be very educational for you, because sometimes people don't know what a panic attack looks like or feels like. And so we want to make sure that we are able to educate you on those things so that you are aware of what's happening to your body or emotionally what's going on. And so that membership allows you to tap into those resources. It allows you to tap into the products that we have, like the magazine. But I think more importantly, it allows you to have other individuals who are in this industry that you can lean on from time to time, or that they can, that you can build this mutually beneficial relationship with. And it may not be Charessa, it may be someone else. So, I think it's very important for us to have someone that we can count on and that we can work with from time to time. And that's what the network is really about. And that's what the membership allows you to do, where you can tap into those resources and receive all the information that I'm sharing with you. And with the magazine, even if you're not a part of the membership, Eddie, we have the magazine. I just mentioned Terica, who is one of my safe spaces. And so we have the magazine right here. Yeah. She was on she did a webinar recently with you, and I made sure that other people join so that they can hear what she had to say and learn more about what you are doing as well. And so that's the type of information that is in this magazine. What are some resources out there, guys, that are like Timeless Genius that you can tap into that's going to help reduce your stress? Right? Because if I got to do a whole bunch of timelines every single time, there got to be a system out there that I can use to help me reduce the stress that comes with that. And so the magazine allows for us to have information like that to help you reduce that stress, and some real stories, Eddie. Like, people are giving me real stories to say, hey, listen, I've been through this situation in my life. This is what I did to support myself to get through it. And I've had calls that said, I read this story about this young lady who was a party planner and was dealing with infertility. She's having to produce events, parties for kids, and she can't have a kid herself. That touched me. Right. And these are the things that she did. So that's what the magazine allows for us to be authentic, address mental health in our industry, but also provide those resources that you will get as a member, but also just as someone who's looking for support.
I love that, Charessa. And if people want to learn more, where do they go online to subscribe and to join?
Yeah, so go to our website, which is eventtherapynetwork.com, eventtherapynetwork.com, and you can, see what activities or what events and products that we have available for you there. And then also you can go, of course, our social media, which is everything is Event Therapy Network. And the magazine is Event Therapy Magazine. So, but you can find everything there. And let me add this too, Eddie, if anyone needs to, if they want to, some people are afraid to share out loud. So you can always email us at hello@eventtherapynetwork.com.
And Charessa, I want to do one more thing. This is going to seem a little weird because, obviously the focal point of this interview, I wanted to kind of get into mental health and all the things that we've gotten into. But I do feel like before I let you go here, I should also tap into your experience as a corporate planner, because most people on this show, it's called the Wedding Industry Insider. And of course, most people are coming at, interviews from the vantage point of wedding pros or serving wedding pros. I would be interested in your feedback on a couple of quick points. First of all, as a corporate planner, do you think that it is strategically wise for people that are out there that have, say, a wedding planning business to consider also doing corporate events? Or do you feel like they should just kind of stay in the wedding planning lane? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think you can definitely go into corporate from weddings. I think that weddings are one of a great. You get so many resources in weddings and a lot of skills that you gain by being a wedding planner. A lot of networking that you have to do with your vendors. So I think that is a great way. Go ahead and jump into the corporate world. It's fun over here. So I think it's important. If you want to go with the corporate world, then yeah, I think you could definitely do it. I think again, as a wedding planner, you have so many resources and so many skills that you've gained just by being in the weddings industry. So you can utilize those skills over there on the corporate end. You just don't have to worry too much about, what people are going to wear, when it comes to like a gown and things like that. You don't have to worry about too many of those details. So, but it's fun over here on the corporate end.
And are there any, and again, I know we could do a whole separate interview about this, and I'll have to get you back on the show to do that. But is there anything that you could just say kind of high level, if somebody is like, I do want to explore that, anything you could share with them that would be helpful in kind of taking the next steps toward becoming a corporate planner if they started from, the wedding planning background?
Yeah. I would definitely say, start, jumping into those some education on the differences in proposal development for one. That's a big thing too, is the differences between the wedding proposal development and the corporate proposal development, because it's looked at much differently than a wedding, right? Begin to start networking with, going into these meeting planner events, to start connecting with those individuals there. And also, I think the last thing would be to, just being open to different types of corporate events, because corporate events is so many, but being open and going ahead and determining what style of corporate events that you would like to focus in on. And are you wanting to do more design with it, or are you looking to just do logistics and management planning? So really get clear on where you are and what you want to do within the corporate world.
I love that. Yeah, and again, I realized, Charessa, that would be a whole other training or podcast that we would do. But I just felt like I know there are wedding planners out there that are doing some corporate planning, want to do more, or maybe that aren't doing it, but want to get into it. And I wanted to give them just a little something to kind of get their hamsters turning if that's something that they're interested in. There's one question that I always ask of my guest here, Charessa, toward the end, which is, if you could give one piece of advice to our audience based on all of your years of your personal experience, your professional experience, planner, therapist, all of that, if you could give them one piece of advice that would help them as much as possible, what would that advice be?
Schedule yourself into the plan. Schedule yourself. In other words, don't forget about you in the process. Don't lose yourself. Don't forget about you. Don't forget about you. So schedule yourself in the plan. You got to create a timeline. You got to create, all these things. Don't forget about you. Add yourself there as well. Because if you don't, you'll begin to feel the impact of that. So that's the one thing that I would tell people. Don't forget about yourself.
That is a beautiful place to leave it, Charessa. And if people want to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to connect?
Yeah, the best way to connect with me is email, which is hello@eventtherapynetwork.com. And I'm definitely all over social media. So, definitely you can connect with us on Instagram mostly, which is Event Therapy Network. So those are the two top places that you can reach me quickly.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
Charessa, on behalf of all of our podcast listeners and the Timeline Genius community, I just want to say thank you. Know you're busy. Thank you very much for, doing what you're doing in our industry and for sharing the wisdom that you've shared here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eddie. I really do appreciate all of your work in the industry as well. So thank you for having me.